Have you ever found yourself in a relationship that leaves you feeling drained, confused, and unsure of who you really are? A relationship where you give and give, yet somehow it feels like you're always falling short? It's painful, right? The emotional roller coaster, the constant self-doubt, the manipulation, it's exhausting. But what if you could break free from this cycle? What if you could find peace, clarity, and the strength to take control of your own happiness? In today's video, we're diving deep into the signs that you're in a toxic relationship and how the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy can help you reclaim your power. It's time to stop surviving and start living the life you deserve. So take a deep breath and let's explore how you can recognize the red flags, protect your peace, and rebuild your sense of self, because you're worth it. Indicator 1. Constant emotional roller coaster. When you're in a toxic relationship, it's easy to find yourself on a constant emotional roller coaster. One moment, everything might feel right. There's affection, joy, and connection. But almost immediately, things shift. The highs are followed by extreme lows, leaving you in a cycle of confusion and emotional whiplash. In a healthy relationship, emotions tend to ebb and flow in a way that feels natural and balanced. Yes, there will be disagreements, misunderstandings, and moments of tension, but they don't consume you. You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells, never knowing when things will explode or when you'll be caught off guard by a sudden change in mood. In a toxic relationship, however, emotional stability is like chasing a mirage. The unpredictability is exhausting, and it drains you mentally and physically. You may find yourself constantly trying to fix things, anticipating the next emotional shift. You're trying to keep the peace, but nothing ever feels stable. The affection one moment feels like an illusion, when the next moment you're faced with accusations or indifference. The toxic partner may be charming one day, but the next, you're suddenly navigating hostility or silence. This constant state of emotional chaos creates an atmosphere where you're forced to react rather than respond. Instead of enjoying meaningful connection, you're always bracing yourself for the next emotional upheaval. Your thoughts become consumed by the need to understand what went wrong or how to prevent it from happening again. But that pursuit is never fully satisfied. From a Stoic perspective, this constant roller coaster is the result of external forces, your partner's erratic behavior, disturbing your inner peace. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what's within our control and to accept that we can't control others. In this kind of toxic dynamic, the only thing you can truly control is how you react. But when your reactions are constantly dictated by the emotional unpredictability of another person, you lose your sense of autonomy and personal power. One way Stoics approach emotional stability is by practicing mindfulness, taking a step back when emotions are running high to gain perspective. In these emotionally turbulent moments, the Stoic principle of amor fati, or love of fate, becomes essential. You accept what happens, but you don't let it dominate your emotional state. The goal is not to avoid difficult emotions, but to develop resilience and find inner calm, even when external circumstances are chaotic. A toxic relationship doesn't allow for this kind of emotional resilience. The constant emotional swings are designed to keep you hooked, making it difficult to think clearly or make rational decisions. You may start to doubt your own emotional stability, which in turn erodes your self-esteem. The Stoic approach would be to step back, examine the situation with objective detachment, and ask yourself if this emotional volatility is something you can genuinely accept in your life. In a healthy relationship, both partners work together to foster a sense of emotional balance, where each person's well-being is respected. But in a toxic relationship, emotional manipulation may often be at play, keeping you off balance and dependent on the unpredictable ebb and flow of your partner's mood. it's important to ask yourself, is the emotional turmoil worth it? Are you constantly navigating a state of chaos? Or are you allowed the peace of mind to enjoy the good moments without fear of the next emotional eruption? Stoic wisdom would urge you to reflect on how much you're willing to sacrifice your inner tranquility for the promise of fleeting emotional highs. In the long run, the emotional roller coaster takes its toll. It leads to anxiety, stress, and a sense of helplessness. The Stoics remind us that peace of mind comes from controlling what we can, our own thoughts, actions, and responses. When you're in a toxic relationship, the most powerful thing you can do is regain control over your emotional landscape, recognizing that you have the power to step off the roller coaster and find stability within yourself, regardless of the chaos outside. When you stop reacting to the highs and lows, when you start building your emotional resilience, you begin to regain your autonomy and emotional freedom. This process may involve tough choices, but it is the first step toward breaking free from the toxic cycle and reclaiming your peace. Indicator 2. Constant gaslighting and self-doubt. Gaslighting, a form of emotional manipulation, can be one of the most insidious tactics used in toxic relationships. It doesn't just distort your perception of reality, it begins to distort your sense of self. What starts as a simple disagreement or a misunderstanding over time erodes your confidence, leaves you questioning your memories, and forces you to second-guess your own judgment. Gaslighting is a deliberate strategy where your partner systematically undermines your perception of truth. It's not just about lying, it's about making you feel as if you're losing control over your own mind. When you're in a toxic relationship where gaslighting is constant, you'll start to notice how small instances of confusion gradually escalate. You might remember events one way, but your partner will insist they happened differently, making you question your own recollections. In some cases, they might even deny things they've said or done, leaving you feeling as though you're imagining things. At first, these moments might feel like small slip-ups, but over time, the cumulative effect is profound. You might find yourself apologizing for things you haven't done or doubting your version of events. This manipulation taps into your deepest fears and insecurities, sowing seeds of self-doubt. You might wonder if you're overreacting or being too sensitive. The more this happens, the more you begin to lose trust in yourself. This is the real power of gaslighting. It doesn't just affect your perception of your partner, but it gradually destroys your sense of self-worth. As this self-doubt deepens, you begin to look inward for the fault. You might start to believe that you're the one who's too emotional or too complicated. You might think that if you could just change, if you could just act differently, the problems would stop. But the truth is, it's not about you. It's about the toxic behavior being perpetuated. The goal of the gaslighter isn't to help you grow or understand, but to keep you trapped in a cycle of confusion, making you question the very things that once felt solid to you, your beliefs, your values, and your understanding of reality. Stoic philosophy teaches us to focus on what we can control and let go of what we cannot. When we're in a relationship where our reality is constantly being questioned, it can be difficult to maintain that clarity. However, a key Stoic lesson is that we must trust in our own judgment and not allow external forces to cloud our minds. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us that we are the only ones who have control over our thoughts and perceptions. Even when others seek to manipulate or distort, we have the power to maintain clarity by grounding ourselves in our values. When you notice gaslighting taking place in your relationship, it's crucial to pause and take stock of your feelings and thoughts. Don't dismiss your inner voice. That intuition, the feeling that something isn't right, is often your best guide. Stoic wisdom encourages us to reflect and act with purpose, not react impulsively. So instead of internalizing self-doubt, take a step back. Look at the facts, recognize the manipulative behavior, and remind yourself that your perception of reality is valid. No one has the right to dictate how you should feel, think, or remember past events. In a gaslighting scenario, the emotional manipulation can be so overwhelming that it feels like there's no way out. The key here is to acknowledge the cycle of doubt and confusion that's been created. Understand that this isn't a normal relationship dynamic. Trusting your judgment is essential, and with each step, you rebuild your self-confidence. Practice detachment, another cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. Detachment allows you to remain calm and objective, to observe the situation from a distance without being swept away by emotional chaos. Through this process, the first step is not to feel ashamed of the emotional toll gaslighting takes on you. It's normal to question yourself in the face of such overwhelming manipulation. But the second step is to reclaim your power by refusing to accept the false narrative that's being imposed on you. It's about owning your reality and asserting your truth, even if that means confronting uncomfortable truths about the relationship itself. If you continue to be gaslit, the Stoic approach encourages you to distance yourself from the situation. Recognize that you can't change the manipulator, but you can change how you react. In some cases, this may even mean walking away. The goal isn't to engage in a battle over who's right, but to preserve your mental and emotional well-being. In toxic relationships, there is no room for peace or clarity when manipulation reigns. Walking away is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. The strength to protect your mind and your sense of self. Remember, the goal is to stay grounded, anchored in your truth. In a world that constantly tries to make you question your worth, remember that you are the authority on your own life. You are the one who gets to define your reality, your thoughts, and your feelings. The Stoic path isn't about removing all emotions. It's about seeing clearly, understanding your emotions, and acting based on rationality and clarity, not on confusion or manipulation. By refusing to let gaslighting erode your sense of self, you begin to rebuild your trust in yourself and your ability to make decisions with confidence. You can take back the power that was once stripped away, and in doing so, you regain the peace of mind that's rightfully yours. Indicator 3. Lack of respect for boundaries. In any healthy relationship, boundaries serve as the invisible lines that safeguard your emotional, mental, and physical well-being. These boundaries are essential to maintain a sense of individuality and mutual respect. When you're in a toxic relationship, however, these boundaries are often disregarded, dismissed, or completely ignored. It's not just about physical space, but the emotional and psychological limits you set that indicate how you're treated and valued. Imagine you've expressed your need for personal time, a quiet moment to recharge, or perhaps a desire for some personal space without interference. A respectful partner would acknowledge this, honor it, and give you the room you need to flourish as an individual. But in a toxic relationship, your boundaries become a point of contention or manipulation. They may laugh it off, accuse you of being unreasonable, or push back with guilt trips to make you feel selfish. In essence, they turn your legitimate need for space into an emotional weapon used against you. The key here is to understand that a lack of respect for boundaries goes far beyond just physical proximity. It's about the emotional toll of constantly being manipulated into feeling like your needs are secondary, that your comfort is irrelevant, and that your peace is something to be bargained with. This erosion of boundaries often takes the form of gaslighting, where your needs are twisted into something that seems overblown, trivial, or non-existent. Over time, this conditioning leaves you feeling guilty for wanting anything for yourself. Moreover, boundaries aren't just one-sided. In a relationship where boundaries are respected, both partners should feel safe in expressing their needs. It's not just about you setting limits, but also about your partner having theirs honored. If one partner is consistently pushing, testing, or ignoring the other's boundaries, it creates an unhealthy imbalance. This disrespect doesn't just make you feel unseen, it actively undermines the foundation of trust and respect on which every good relationship is built. A toxic partner doesn't recognize that boundaries are not walls, they're bridges to deeper, healthier connections. When boundaries are respected, it creates space for emotional intimacy, trust, and understanding. It allows for vulnerability without fear of exploitation, and it provides the room to grow both individually and as a couple. On the flip side, when boundaries are not respected, it becomes a breeding ground for resentment, frustration, and eventually emotional burnout. If you find yourself in a relationship where your boundaries are constantly disregarded, you may begin to feel disoriented or even question whether your limits are valid. The danger here is that over time, you start to believe that your needs are less important, and you may begin compromising them for the sake of maintaining peace. This is a deeply corrosive cycle that chips away at your self-worth, leaving you feeling emotionally exhausted and drained. In this scenario, it becomes vital to reassert your boundaries, firmly, but with clarity and self-respect. If your partner's response to your boundaries is hostile or dismissive, it's an undeniable red flag. Relationships, no matter how close, are built on mutual respect for each other's individuality, and your boundaries serve as a powerful tool for maintaining that respect. It is not a privilege, but a fundamental right to have your needs acknowledged and respected. The Stoic perspective emphasizes the importance of maintaining control over what we can, and understanding that we cannot control the behavior of others, but we can control how we respond. In the face of boundary violations, the Stoic approach would advise recognizing the behavior for what it is, a reflection of the other person's inability to respect your autonomy, and choosing to distance yourself from the negativity that comes with it. By focusing on your own principles, you're not only protecting your emotional health, but reinforcing your personal values in the process. Recognizing when boundaries are being violated is a crucial step in protecting your emotional well-being. The Stoic mindset encourages us to detach from situations that harm us and to stand firm in our convictions. If someone repeatedly disregards your boundaries, you are not obligated to accept that behavior. Your value isn't determined by how much you're willing to tolerate. The moment you let someone continually overstep your boundaries without consequence, you signal to them that it's acceptable, and that's where the damage begins. In the end, respecting boundaries is about recognizing that love doesn't mean losing yourself. It's about understanding that a strong relationship is one where both partners feel free to express their individuality while also coming together to support each other. Without respect for boundaries, a relationship cannot thrive. It will only wither, suffocate under the weight of emotional manipulation, and leave one or both parties feeling disrespected, unheard, and unappreciated.
Indicator 4. Manipulation and control. In a healthy relationship, both partners should feel like equals, where mutual respect and understanding guide the interactions. However, when manipulation and control take center stage, the dynamics shift drastically. Instead of a partnership, you find yourself in a situation where your thoughts, feelings, and even your actions are constantly under scrutiny, twisted, or controlled to serve the other person's needs. Manipulation doesn't always appear as overt. It often hides behind what seems like concern or love. Your partner may say, "I'm only doing this because I care about you," when in reality, it's an attempt to limit your freedom or shape your choices. In such cases, you may begin questioning your own thoughts, decisions, or boundaries as though they're not your own, but something that's been imposed upon you. It's subtle at first. Maybe you find yourself constantly apologizing for things that aren't your fault, or you start walking on eggshells, afraid that your partner will blow up over minor issues. Over time, manipulation becomes more sophisticated. Gaslighting may enter the picture, where your partner distorts reality to make you doubt your own perceptions. You're made to believe that you're the problem, even when you know deep down something isn't right. The control aspect often plays into manipulation. A partner who controls your behavior is not necessarily doing it for your well-being. They might disguise their actions under the guise of looking out for you or keeping you safe. But controlling your choices, from how you dress to who you talk to or where you go, turns your relationship into a prison. You may start to feel isolated from friends, family, and even from your own passions and interests. What was once a connection based on love and trust now feels like a series of rules and restrictions. In these situations, emotional blackmail can also come into play. You might be guilt-tripped into doing something you're uncomfortable with statements like, "If you really loved me, you would," or "I can't believe you would choose that over me." These tactics prey on your emotions, forcing you into situations where your happiness and comfort are secondary to your partner's desires or insecurities. At some point, the manipulation and control will erode your sense of self-worth. You'll start to believe that you're not capable of making decisions on your own. This is the danger. When you begin to question your ability to think independently, or worse, to trust your instincts, your voice, your desires, and your boundaries fade into the background, and what's left is a shadow of who you truly are. Stoic philosophy teaches us that our thoughts and reactions are within our control, even if the world around us isn't. If you find yourself in a relationship where manipulation and control are at play, remember this key principle. Your ability to act with integrity and clarity remains yours to decide. It might be hard to step away, especially if emotional ties are deeply involved, but recognizing that you have the power to set boundaries, to assert your worth, and to take control of your own life is the first step in reclaiming your freedom. To move forward, you need to develop the courage to make decisions based on what aligns with your values and what preserves your peace. It's okay to walk away from a relationship that's draining your emotional energy and preventing you from growing into the best version of yourself. Remember, manipulation thrives in an environment of uncertainty and self-doubt. But the Stoic belief that we control our own responses to the world gives us the strength to challenge the narratives others try to impose on us. In conclusion, if manipulation and control are present in your relationship, it's time to reevaluate the situation. Don't allow another person to determine your worth, your actions, or your future. You deserve a relationship based on mutual respect, trust, and autonomy, where both individuals can flourish without fear of being manipulated or controlled. By recognizing these toxic behaviors, you protect yourself from losing not only the relationship, but also your sense of self. The real power lies in your ability to stand firm and refuse to let someone else take control of your life. Indicator 5. Emotional exhaustion and inability to heal. In any relationship, there are moments of strain, but when the emotional toll starts to outweigh the moments of joy, it becomes a clear sign of something deeply wrong. Emotional exhaustion in a toxic relationship isn't just about feeling tired after arguments or draining conversations. It's the persistent fatigue that comes from being constantly on alert, trying to navigate unpredictability, manipulation, or neglect. It's the kind of tiredness that seeps into your bones, into the very core of who you are, and you can't shake it off, no matter how much rest you get. Imagine waking up each day feeling like you're carrying a weight that gets heavier with each passing minute. It's not just mental exhaustion, it's a sense of inner depletion that doesn't have an end in sight. You might find yourself wondering if you're even capable of healing anymore. The spark you once had, the drive to pursue your goals, or even the passion you had for life seems to be slipping away, leaving you feeling numb, or worse, like a shell of your former self. When you're emotionally exhausted, you often reach a point where you start questioning whether you're even capable of moving on, of healing. In toxic relationships, there's this unspoken trap that gets set. You're emotionally drained so much that you lose faith in your own ability to restore yourself. In the back of your mind, there's this voice telling you that recovery is a distant dream, something that belongs to other people who don't have the same burdens as you do. This constant emotional depletion can make you feel like you're drowning in the very relationship you're trying to hold together. You might even find yourself constantly seeking approval, but it never feels satisfying. You try to fix things. You keep giving your energy, your time, your emotions, but they remain unreciprocated, or worse, they're used against you. The cycle continues, and each time it does, you're left feeling emptier and more disconnected from the person you used to be. From the lens of Stoic philosophy, this is a moment to take a step back and reflect. Is this relationship in line with my core values? Do I have control over my emotional energy, or have I let another person hijack my peace? The Stoics teach us that we should not let external factors, especially other people's behaviors, dictate our emotional states. Yet, in toxic relationships, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that the emotional turmoil is something beyond our control. But the Stoics remind us that while we cannot control others, we always have control over how we respond. You may feel overwhelmed, but it's important to acknowledge that this exhaustion is a signal from within. It's telling you that your emotional resources are being drained at an unsustainable rate. In Stoic terms, it's an indication that you need to reassess what is within your power to change and what is not. And while the emotional toll can feel insurmountable, there is always an opportunity to recalibrate your boundaries, even if it's just taking the first small steps toward emotional independence. Sometimes, healing isn't about waiting for the other person to change. Sometimes, it's about you finding the courage to change your own behavior, to disconnect from the source of your exhaustion, and to rebuild your own emotional well-being, one step at a time. Stoicism teaches that the key to emotional freedom lies within us, not in the actions of others. But what happens when you can't heal? When the pain from the relationship lingers even after the conversations have ended and the apologies have been made? This is where Stoic wisdom can provide clarity. The Stoics emphasize the importance of perspective. It's not about erasing the pain or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about recognizing that pain is temporary and that our strength lies in how we respond to it. If you find yourself unable to heal in this toxic relationship, consider the Stoic approach of focusing on the present moment. You can't change the past, and the future is uncertain, but you do have control over your actions today. By focusing on what you can do in the present moment to preserve your emotional health, you start to reclaim a sense of peace and strength. It might be something as simple as setting new boundaries, or as challenging as walking away from a relationship that no longer serves you. Ultimately, the inability to heal is not a reflection of your personal failure, but rather a sign that your energy and emotional resources are being stretched beyond healthy limits. The process of healing may take time, and it may require you to detach from the toxic elements around you, but it is possible. The key is realizing that emotional exhaustion is not a permanent state, but a call to action. Just as a storm eventually passes, your inner calm can return with time, effort, and a deliberate focus on your own well-being. And so, when you find yourself emotionally drained and unable to heal, recognize it as a crucial moment of self-awareness. This is your opportunity to make a decision. Will you continue to pour from an empty cup, or will you begin the process of restoring your own energy, peace, and joy? The choice ultimately is in your hands. As you reflect on the relationship you're in, I want you to remember one powerful truth. You are worthy of love, respect, and peace. Life is too short to sacrifice your happiness for someone else's control or manipulation. You don't have to settle for a love that leaves you drained or uncertain. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true strength lies in our ability to maintain our inner peace, no matter the chaos around us. If you feel trapped in a toxic relationship, I urge you to take a step back, look within, and trust that you have the power to change your reality. Your worth is not determined by anyone's actions, but your own ability to honor your boundaries, your emotions, and your future. You deserve a love that nurtures your soul, not one that holds you back from your fullest potential. Remember, your journey to healing starts with you, and you are never alone in this fight. Keep moving forward, for you are capable of creating the life and the love you truly deserve.